Coming up, we will get the latest on the earthquake aftermath from India's ambassador to the United States and geography editor Harm DeBlay, and he will explain why no one saw the tragedy coming. Charlie?
Spencer's out in La Crosse, Wisconsin this morning. He's going to keep you updated on the weekend weather. We'll get to him a little later. The other major story this morning is the official government investigation on what went wrong last February at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. And Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen will be joining us. He issued a report yesterday on that botched raid. And as I say, he'll be with us in our first half hour. But let's go to Morton D now, who's standing by with the news of the morning. Mort?
Thank you, Charlie, and good morning, everyone. More and more death and destruction. That's what one official says search teams are finding in southwestern India. The death toll from yesterday's massive earthquake there is at least 21,000. A few moments ago, we spoke with ABC's Ron Allen in Bombay.
Mort, it seems that they're still trying to figure out exactly how many people were killed and what the extent of the damage is. This earthquake happened in a very remote area that is very difficult to get to, and although the Indian government has launched a relief effort, we're hearing that they're having some difficulty getting there. And in some areas, for example, there are reportedly huge swarms of people who are in a state of panic, who are prohibiting rescue operations, and it just seems to be as one person described it, a human disaster of just unimaginable proportions.
And I understand that an international relief effort has been undertaken. Have any of the planes from foreign countries arrived yet, as far as you know?
That I'm not sure about. We don't have much information about that. The reports that I've been hearing suggest that the Indian government has not really asked for a lot of outside assistance. They seem determined to go it alone. There was even an offer of assistance from India's neighbor and enemy, Pakistan, and I believe that the government has so far said that most outside help is not necessary, although certainly appreciated.
Okay, Ron, thank you very much. Ron Allen, reporting from India. There's some movement in Moscow this morning, but it's far from clear in what direction. There's the collapse of an apparent deal to ease the standoff between Boris Yeltsin and his rivals in the Russian parliament, but both sides are talking again. ABC's Mike Lee reports from Moscow.
Negotiators began gathering at a monastery today after Boris Yeltsin agreed to mediation through the influential Russian Orthodox Church. The idea was to find a face-saving way for both sides to end the standoff. At about the same time, a priest appeared at the police barricade outside Parliament and was allowed to pass into the protest zone. But leaders of the rebel lawmakers had already rejected last night's tentative plan to give up their guns in exchange for a lessening of the police blockade. As lawmakers listened, the priest said, "I understand your emotions, your loss of esteem at being disbanded by Boris Yeltsin. But," he added, "you agreed to attend peace talks, and your head negotiator has not shown up." Back at the monastery, aides to Yeltsin left after several hours, but said they would try again to reach agreement with the lawmakers. Tension has been building in the streets near Parliament, with more clashes last night between police and pro-communist demonstrators. The atmosphere this morning outside Parliament was calm, with some police coping with the tension the best way they could. On both sides of the barricades, protesters and police have been asking reporters for any word of a breakthrough. How long can all of this last, they say.
And as you can hear from the music behind me, this is not a disco, it's a police truck blasting into the compound, continuing their psychological warfare. Mort?
Mike, ultimatums and deadlines have come and gone. Any new deadline or ultimatum from the Yeltsin people?
Some of the audio was broken up from me to you, but I got the sense of your question. Bear in mind that negotiations are continuing. They may be barely hanging on. However, this effort to mediate by the church addresses the issue of trying to reduce the show of force on both sides. It is not aimed at the central political issues of when elections will be held or whether or not the rebel lawmakers behind me will give up their fight to hold on to power.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Mike Lee in Moscow. Chrysler and the United Auto Workers have reached a tentative agreement. A strike deadline had already passed at midnight when the agreement was reached, and some 6,000 workers had already walked off the job. The rank and file will vote on the new contract next week. Chrysler workers are on the job this morning, but pink slips are flying at some other major firms. U.S. Air will trim its workforce by 2,500 by mid-1994, and Martin Marietta says it's in the process of laying off 11,000 workers. The White House claims it has been making some job reductions of its own. The story from ABC's Ann Compton at the White House.
Just in time for the next fiscal year, the White House announced that President Clinton has kept his promise to lead the government in cost cutting by eliminating 25% of his own staff.
The new White House staff will be smaller, but hopefully more efficient. It will be maintaining the president's commitment that he made during the campaign.
The savings, $3.5 million, but the White House had trouble documenting all those numbers. And most of the positions wiped off the books were in the office of drug czar. It all brought a sharp partisan protest from a suburban Virginia congressman whose district includes lots of other federal workers.
But for them to pretend that they'll cut the staff by 25% and cut the budget by 25% is unethical, and it is basically a lie.
Well, we have cut it, and I can guarantee you people around here have been complaining about it because we're handling more mail, doing more work, and carrying a bigger load than this White House has carried in more than a dozen years.
Actual spending on the key offices at the White House, in fact, should go up, not down, in the fiscal year just beginning. Other cabinet officers remain under orders to cut their staff and eliminate 100,000 jobs nationwide. Ann Compton, ABC News, the White House.
Finally, if you want to put some drama and suspense into your life, try baseball. The Atlanta Braves and the San Francisco Giants are tied for first place in the National League's Western Division. Last night, the Braves were battered by the Astros, losing 10-8. And the Giants smartly took advantage of the situation. The Giants defeating the Dodgers 3-1. Thus, the tie was created with but 3 games to play in the regular season. And Charlie, with your team way out of it, I guess you don't care about what I just said.
No. This is a great pennant race, and any pennant race that's this exciting gets everybody involved. It's terrific for baseball, but of course next year they wreck it because both teams would have already qualified for the playoffs, but then that's another story, and no bitter grapes here at the moment. 8 minutes after the hour, we're going out to La Crosse, Wisconsin. Spencer Christian is out there with the National Weather Forecast. He's out there for Oktoberfest. Thank goodness he didn't go yesterday, or it would have been Septemberfest.
You're right about that, Charlie. See, I arrived just in time for Oktoberfest, the 33rd annual Oktoberfest, one of the few truly authentic old world folk festivals here in the U.S. It begins today, goes through next...
Spencer, it's now 10 minutes after 7, and we turn to India's tragedy, the earthquake that has killed at least 21,000 people, but that number is a guesstimate. We do know the earthquake has left many more thousands trapped, injured, homeless, and missing. Siddhartha Shankar Ray is India's ambassador to the United States, and he's joining us from Washington with the latest information. In a moment, our geography editor, Harm DeBlay, will be here with a geographer's explanation of what happened. But, Mr. Ambassador, I appreciate your joining us. At this hour, what can you give us on the scope of the tragedy?
Well, till last night, the latest figures that were given to us by the Press Trust of India's agency was that at least 10,000 people had been killed, and about 12,000 were still lying buried, and that well over 10,000 people had been injured. It has been a massive earthquake, there's no doubt about it. But just before coming to the studio here, I was able to contact the Prime Minister's office in Delhi, and they told me, the responsible officers told me, that it's very early now to say what the correct estimate would be, but it seems to be at least 22,000 persons are unaccounted. Or in other words, they are missing or dead. And it may well be that 10,000 are dead amongst them or more.
Mr. Ambassador, since we know so little, or most people know so little about Indian geography, tell me what kind of a region this is, what goes on in this region, how densely populated it is, etc.
Well, it's a populous place. It's an agricultural area. It is to the main places where the earthquake really did severe damage was a small town called Kilori in the district of Latur and a place called Omarga in the district of Osmanabad, both in Maharashtra.
I gather there's a number of small towns in this area, actually,
Quite right.
and somewhat temporarily built. In other words, not very well established towns.
It is a area which was becoming prosperous. A lot of sugarcane is produced there, and there's a lot of farmland. And there are many permanent structures also, semi-permanent structures, and these must have collapsed. And the reason for so many deaths is obviously this, that it happened at about 3:40 in the morning when people were all asleep in their houses. As a result of which, when the severe thing happened, in a matter of minutes, I suppose, they found things falling on top of them.
I gather India has a rather sophisticated disaster relief program that has now been kicked into effect. Is that right?
Yes, they have a well-organized program. The Army and the Air Force also join in this. In fact, I had taken part in some relief earlier, very serious flood damage. India is used to disasters from time to time. But this disaster, this earthquake disaster is perhaps the worst that we had in 50 years. The Prime Minister is now overseeing the entire thing, and he had sent the Interior Federal Minister to the spot. He has come back, and after he came back this morning, which is now afternoon in India, they had a cabinet meeting and they discussed everything. And the Prime Minister was to go on Monday to the area, but now he's going tomorrow. And he's going tomorrow when more definite news would be available.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, I appreciate you joining us, and I hope the news that you get is good. We're going to turn to our geography editor, Harm DeBlay, is with us. Harm, there's two things that interest me about this one. Number one, it is relatively low on the Richter scale to have caused so much damage and death. And secondly, I gather this is not an area known for earthquakes. So what happened?
That's right, Charlie. Well, as you know, the crust of the Earth consists of plates, solid slabs that move relative to each other. For example, here in this part of the world, one slab is moving in this direction and one slab is moving in this direction, as a result of which we all live on rafts. And where these slabs make contact is where you find earthquakes. In the case of India, there are lots of earthquakes in India, and there's a zone that is known for earthquake propensity, and that zone is approximately like this. And it's because the slab on which India sits is moving this way, and the slab on which the rest of Asia sits is moving that way.
But that's up in the Himalayas,
exactly.
And this is down here.
That's right. The epicenter of the earthquake is approximately here. So that this earthquake is an intraplate earthquake. Now, if you have a look at the map of all the quake records of the last several years here on the monitor, notice that you can almost see the outlines of the plates on those by the dots that mark the epicenters of earthquakes. Now, take a look way over on the left. India is practically clear. If you look at North America, our earthquake propensity is where the Pacific plate and the North American plate make contact, California.
Right.
But we have a few earthquakes, as you can see, in the rest of the North America to the east.
Well, but I see India on the extreme right of that map, and down where this one is, there's no dots. So this is a very unusual area.
And the reason for that is that this is the solid part of the plate. These plates are called, these earthquakes are called intraplate earthquakes. And when they happen, they tend to be more severe because the areas struck are so solid, they're not honeycombed by previous earthquake faults, so there's nothing to cushion them. The most serious earthquake in North America was the New Madrid earthquake in Missouri. It changed the course of the Mississippi River in 1811. Not many people realize that the second most important and severe earthquake in North America was the one in 1886 in Charleston, South Carolina. That rang church bells in Chicago and Boston. So we do have a risk inside plates.
Were those both intra-plate? In other words, not where the plates join, but actually in the middle of the plate.
Exactly. They're unpredictable.
And more severe. They may be lower in the Richter scale, but they can cause more damage, as this one did in the central part of India.
Precisely.
All right. Thank you, Harm. Geographer's perspective on what happened in India yesterday. 16 past the hour. Next, we're going to turn to what went wrong in Waco, Texas. The official report is out now, and Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen joins us when we continue. Half hour.
Right now, 18 minutes after, it was one of the worst days in U.S. law enforcement history, the February 28th raid by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. That raid resulted in the deaths of 4 ATF agents and led to the 51-day standoff that ended with a fire in which as many as 85 cult members were killed. Well, yesterday, Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen released a blistering report highly critical of the ATF, and the Treasury Secretary joins us this morning from Washington. Mr. Secretary, good morning.
Good morning.
Just to be clear on this report focused only on the ATF raid in February and not the FBI raid that resulted in the fire in April. Is that correct, sir?
That's quite correct.
All right. This report seems to make it very clear that this raid should never have happened. Could they have arrested him away from the compound?
Well, that was not explored to the extent that it should have been. And the report makes that point. And what you also see in this raid is a clear violation of the instructions of Treasury. They were to abort the raid in the event that the element of surprise was lost.
And so when they found out, I believe 45 minutes beforehand, that David Koresh had been told about it, they should have called it off at that point?
Without a question.
So was there a lack of leadership out there in the field at that point?
Well, a lack of leadership. It was a lack of the correct judgment in following the instructions that had been given by Treasury. Not only that, Treasury had called off the raid and told the director to do that previously. He then further checked and assured Treasury that they would follow the rules and that if there was any unusual change in the makeup at the compound as to where the men were, whether they're outside the building or not, or the question of loss of the element of surprise, that the raid would not come off.
The report also indicates that there was a cover-up afterwards, both in the reports that they were to file and also in statements that were made to the media.
That is also true. And what they did in that was actually alter the plan of attack to make it more convincing that they'd followed what they should have done. And in addition, cover-up statements and some criticism of the undercover agent in trying to pass some of the blame to him, which was a serious mistake.
Because of all this, ATF Director Stephen Higgins has been replaced. Four or five of the ATF administrative officials have been now put on leave. Might any of these people face other charges, even criminal charges?
Well, what will happen with Mr. Higgins, let me make a point about him. He's a man that has had a long and distinguished career heading the department. He has given me his resignation. I've accepted it. I think we need new leadership there that will follow through on the summation of this report and what should be done in the future. Insofar as the other five, that will be sent to the Inspector General in the Treasury Department, and then he will advise me as to whether we should send it on to the Justice Department for further action. These will be individual cases that will be considered, and we'll follow the appropriate regulations in that regard.
Now, one claim that we heard many times by David Koresh was that he and his followers were acting in self-defense, and yet, as I understand in this report, it clearly found that they fired the first shot. Is that right?
No question about that. He did fire the first shot, and it was a situation where he had a great number of firearms, many of them totally illegal, and that was the reason that the ATF, after much investigation and with every right, took out the warrants and the service of a subpoena and was following through on that one, because he had accumulated explosives, the types of things that were directly contrary to the law.
Secretary Benson, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll be back.
It's part of the celebrity forum, but outside riot gear-clad police had to control the protesters. Well, the AIDS-infected Gresham man who allegedly molested a 3-year-old girl is expected to be indicted today. 23-year-old Timothy Hinkhouse already is on parole after serving nearly a year in prison for exposing 3 women in the deadly virus. The little girl has not tested positive for AIDS. And Governor Barbara Roberts will hear this morning from the federal earthquake inspectors from Klamath Falls. Residents filed more than 700 reports of damage following the September 20th shaker. They're trying to determine if the area qualifies for federal aid. Time now to check on the weekend weather with Matt Safino. Good morning, Matt.
High atop a cement floor in a warehouse in Los Angeles. Good morning, America.
All right, good morning, Paula. Good morning, everyone. I'm Charles Gibson.
And I'm John Lennon. It's Friday. It's October 1st.
Paula joins us a number of times. Her face familiar if you watch this program. Certainly familiar if you saw last month's Emmy Awards, where Paula Poundstone stood ceremony on its ear with her irreverent backstage revelations. We'll see how reverently she treats her own upcoming ABC show that's about to debut, and we'll be here to talk about it in a few moments.
And unfortunately, get ready for a new flu season. It is coming early. I'm told it's going to be nasty. Dr. Tim Johnson will be joining us shortly with his prescription for beating the bug. Also, Joel Siegel reviews a new film starring and directed by Robert De Niro. Right now, Morton Dean has the news. Mort?
Thank you, Joan. Good morning, everyone. At least 21,000 dead, and perhaps the same number are still buried in what once were villages in southwestern India. Those are the casualty estimates from the Indian government following yesterday's massive earthquake. Many villages are mountains of rubble, and rescue workers using cranes and bulldozers are being joined by families using their hands to try to reach those who are trapped. In Moscow, for a brief time this morning, talks appeared to be moving ahead, with church leaders mediating between representatives of Boris Yeltsin and the parliament. But the top negotiator for parliament did not show up. At the parliament, the blockade remains. There was a tentative agreement last night for it to end and for those inside the building to give up their arms, but leaders of the anti-Yeltsin group rejected the deal. Another poor report card for this country's schools. 4 years ago, a National Education Summit set a goal of making American schools the world's best by the end of this century. Yesterday, a progress report was issued. ABC's Bill Blakemore has the results.
Today is sunny.
The survey shows that at the present rate, America will never reach its education goals for the year 2000.
At no stage in the learner's life, before formal schooling, during the traditional school years, or as adults, are Americans doing as well as they should or they can.
The panel report brings together all the bad news Americans usually hear in pieces. Only half of high school seniors understand how the government works. Half of 10th graders don't always feel safe at school. Adults 21 to 25 years old are less literate than that age group was 7 years ago.
So we're saying to America today, arm yourself. Get more involved with education, not simply delegate it and relegate it to government and to those who are experts in education. It's everybody's job.
In the main report, people can easily measure their state's progress, even against other countries. For example, only 22% of Ohio's 8th graders demonstrate proficiency in reading, well below Taiwan, Korea, and Switzerland. The panel has an uphill fight convincing most Americans that major school improvement should involve them. A new Gallup poll shows 72% feel the schools their kids go to are doing just fine. Bill Blakemore, ABC News, Washington.
Want to own a highway? The head of the Federal Highway Administration says it might be a good idea to have private businesses run part of the nation's highway system. The new owners could set up toll booths or increase existing tolls to make a profit. And the theory goes there would be enough money to make needed repairs on roads and bridges, money the government doesn't have. Spencer, want to buy I-95?
Sorry, Mort, I wasn't able to hear what you were saying, but I can tell you what I'm doing here. I'm in La Crosse, Wisconsin for the beginning of Oktoberfest, the 33rd annual Oktoberfest. And among the many things that you can find here will be great things to eat. Right here in front we have some bratwurst and sauerkraut. In the back here, some old-fashioned German potato salad, the Horn of Plenty, signifying that there is plenty of food here, of course. Over here, you've got spatzel, pork loin, potato pancakes, all kinds of good stuff to eat. And right now, I've got a weather report that shouldn't be too hard to swallow either. Let's go to the maps to take a look at what's happening. There'll be tons of sun across the 48 contiguous states today, especially out west, but along the east coast as well, down to the Gulf Coast. But it's getting windy and wintry in the north central states. The northern plains and upper Mississippi Valley will find cool conditions today under mostly sunny skies, but it'll be breezy. And along that funnel system you see reaching from the Great Lakes down to the mid-Mississippi Valley, there'll be some widely scattered showers. Now, as we look ahead to Saturday, bright sunshine will cover about the western three-quarters of the nation, except for one little spot of disturbed weather in western Texas and western Oklahoma. Showers and thunder showers will be widely scattered from the Ohio Valley down to the lower Mississippi Valley. And look for 6 to 12 inches of snowfall up around Lake Superior. Sun in a cloudless sky for much of the nation on Sunday, but snow showers and rain showers, snow and rain, we'll call it snain, will continue to reach from about the mid-portion of the Great Lakes over into the Ohio Valley and up into New England. Oh, and thunderstorms are likely in South Florida. That's a look at the national weather picture. Here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Safino. It's a cool one out there. Temperatures ranging from the low 40s to the low 50s in downtown Portland. With clear skies, we may see some patches of fog this morning briefly, and then more sunshine. It's going to last right through the weekend.
And we'll have more from Oktoberfest and, of course, more on the weekend weather coming up in the next half hour. Joan?
All right. Thank you very much, Spencer. It's now 35 minutes after. Coming up next on Good Morning America, Dr. Tim Johnson on a new early flu season. Also in this half hour, Paula Poundstone takes us behind the scenes of her new comedy empire. And in our next half hour, gymnast and Olympic hopeful Shannon Miller warms up on the balance beam.
On us, so Dr. Tim Johnson is here to give this program a shot in the arm. According to the Centers for Disease Control, a particularly nasty strain of flu is expected this year, and it may be arriving early. And for this reason, the CDC is recommending those at high risk get their flu shots earlier than normal. And as I mentioned, our medical editor, Dr. Tim Johnson, is here. Tim, normally we talk about getting a flu shot around the 1st of November. You're moving up a month?
The ideal time traditionally is mid-October to mid-November, but because of this particular one that you refer to, the A Beijing strain, which is expected to be around this year and maybe be serious, has already shown up in an outbreak in Louisiana in August. The CDC today is saying that people should get their flu shots starting right now. By the way, I don't have the flu, I have a little bit of a cold.
Well, you say it may be serious. Do we know how bad this one is?
No, the only honest answer is you never know until the season comes. But we do know that in general, the A varieties are more serious than the B varieties, and that A Beijing in the past has been serious, so we're nervous about what might come this year.
Tim, I gather this strain of flu showed up at the end of the last flu season. Where do they go during the summer?
Well, every year, of course, the CDC and its experts have to make a guess as to what might happen in the next season as they prepare the flu shot for that season. And as you said, the A Beijing strain was one of those that showed up in some parts of this country late last year. Actually, people get the flu year-round, but they don't get as many cases when the weather is better, when people are more outside, when they're not crowded together inside. And flu occurs around the world throughout the year. It's just that the big season in this country is in the wintertime.
Who needs the shots?
Clearly, people who are older, and that's arbitrarily defined in this case as age 65 and older. About 80 to 90% of the deaths from flu occur in that age group. So that's the big target group. And while I'm on that target group, let me point out that the good news this year is that flu shots for Medicare people, age 65 and older, are free. So there's no excuse to get them this year. A pilot study showed that when they're free, the immunization rate went up from 40 to 60%. We should get that as close to 100% as possible. Also, people of any age who have serious chronic diseases and people who work with high-risk groups such as in nursing homes. Those are the major groups.
I also understand there's a second shot that some people ought to have this year.
Yeah, the second shot is called the pneumonia shot. Unlike the flu shot, which has to be given every year because it's for viruses that change easily, the pneumonia shot, good news, is a one-time shot. It only is once in a lifetime. It protects against some of the most common varieties of bacterium that cause pneumonia. So if you go in for a flu shot this year and you've never had the pneumonia shot, you should get it at the same time. It's also now free for Medicare recipients age 65 and older.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Tim Johnson. All you folks sitting at home thinking you had 2 to 6 weeks before you had to get your flu shot, wrong-o. You need to get it now. It's 19 before the hour. Next, Behind the Scenes with comedian Paula Poundstone and friends when Good Morning America continues here on ABC.
It is now 43 minutes after comedian Paula Poundstone stole the show at the Emmy Awards this year with her irreverent and unscripted backstage mayhem. And Chantal tells us this offbeat style carried over to her backstage tour of Poundstone's upcoming ABC comedy series.
I'm very clumsy. I was nearly killed once by cinnamon. I was making some cinnamon toast, and I inadvertently inhaled some cinnamon. I sneezed so hard, I hit my head on the counter and fell to the ground.
Paula Poundstone has taken her unique brand of comedy on the road for years, and now she's taking that talent to primetime TV with a series where she'll have a look at the world as only she can. Take, for example, discussing the Constitution with Senator Paul Simon on a merry-go-round.
No, I think the Constitution is a great thing.
I dropped by the production offices just to see how things were going.
How are you? How are you? Very good, thanks. Come on in.
Okay. We don't want anybody to know about this.
No one is supposed to know. Those shrubs were supposed to have been cut in the shape of my head.
First of all, I should ask you, are you nervous? I mean, this is a big deal, your own television show.
It is a big deal, and I am nervous. Although, I figure, you know what? I can't control what they're going to do in terms of ratings and everything like that. In fact, I'm reading this book about the Emmys, and apparently, usually when something wins an Emmy, it was ripped off the air about a week before. So my goal is to just have the opportunity to do whatever I want to do for 13 weeks. And the fact that no one watches television Saturday night at 9 o'clock, I think is working in my favor, frankly.
I think that's important.
All right.
So is this where the creative process is?
This is where the creative process...
Whoa. What's that?
This is...
Take your nap there?
Part of the creative process. This is, I have a foster baby, and he generally takes notes here on the couch beside me.
Don't they have an incredible training process you have to go through to have a foster child?
They have it's a 10-week thing. I got trained, by the way, at Westside Children's Center.
Lovely.
And it is a cool thing.
All parents should have to go through that, not just foster
I actually
parents.
think it would be a great thing. He got his shots today. I cried. They gave me a lollipop, honest to God. He was fine.
Yeah. So how do you find ideas for a show like this? I mean, you've got to fill up a lot of Saturdays.
Look, they're in here brainstorming. Yeah. We have some ideas of what we might do, and then I go on stage and I do what I want to do. So the thing that I really want to remain alive on this show is that, say on show number 4, like this here, we start out with the thing, an idea that I had about having a budget expert come on and explain what the different categories that the president and the Congress have to allocate money to for the budget. And each audience member, a studio audience member coming in, receives a stack of Monopoly money, and there is a period in which we'd have a band play, and everybody distributes the Monopoly money in the various buckets that represent the categories of the budget. And what the studio audience says and does are a big part of it. So if we were doing this, and it was really like, it felt like great fun to me, and I really wanted to, then we could do this. We wouldn't have to do any of these other things. And we're really not locked in any way, because it's the Paul Poundstone Show.
Where's your studio going to be?
Our studio is going to be the warehouse underneath this office building that we're converting into a studio.
I got to see this.
You know, I never even knew this was here, and then one day we were looking for locations, and we kept driving to different theaters and looking around, and things were either scheduling problems or the space didn't feel right, and we wanted something that was ours, you know?
Wait.
We weren't borrowing.
Wait. What's this?
Mandatory eye protection required beyond this point. Yeah.
Excuse me interrupting you. I don't normally do that.
No, it's important. That's why now,
that's important.
For the rest of the way, we have to just, that's where, you know, these things came from.
But isn't this truly a wonderful opportunity for you to have your own show? I mean, we joke about it.
It's the greatest thing. I was upstairs and I realized we have 2 fax machines. They said we need a backup fax machine. I never felt so important in all my life.
Were you a funny kid?
It depends who you ask. Mrs. Bump, my kindergarten teacher, said in the first sentence of the last paragraph of the summary letter from the end of my kindergarten year, it said, I have enjoyed many of Paula's humorous comments about her activities. So I think Mrs. Bump thought so.
And Paula's series will debut on ABC at the end of October. Right now it's 48 minutes after. Still ahead, Joel Siegel reviews the new film starring and directed by Robert De Niro, and Good Morning America continues.
I've done my share. We all have.
It is now 10 minutes before the hour. Oktoberfest is not the only reason I came to La Crosse, Wisconsin. October is also Computer Learning Month, and there's a place here in La Crosse called the Cholita Institute where special needs students use computers to open their eyes to a world of achievement.
Now it's your turn. You spell it.
Until a month ago, 15-year-old Becky San could not spell her name. Becky has cerebral palsy and other developmental disorders, but now, thanks to specially designed computers, Becky can.
You'd be surprised how much better these kids feel about themselves when they can recognize their name and reproduce their name. That's what it's all about. Get them to feel good about themselves so they can move on.
That's the goal at Cholita Institute, a residential treatment center in La Crosse, Wisconsin, for developmentally disabled students. Here, children learn everything from painting pictures to table manners to computers. Diane Hippus says the results are amazing.
There's something about the computer screen and the feedback that they get and the total control they have over an interaction that is very motivating to them.
Newly designed software and hardware programs have now made it possible for many special needs students to use computers for the first time. For example, physically limited kids who can't type can now bypass the standard keyboard with this touch-sensitive screen. Stevie Martin has poor motor skills and couldn't access a computer before this special adaptive screen was created. Now he can't stay away from it.
The effort has certainly paid off in the increase in academic skills. The conference building is certainly well worth it. And with the adaptive devices that are available, the computer is accessible to virtually anybody.
I learned something.
You glad you didn't try it once anyway?
You know something, there was such a wonderful spirit of camaraderie on the location. We were in the middle of nowhere. It was spectacularly beautiful. There were 4 women, 62 men, and it was like having 62 brothers. And it was wonderful because there was a great physicality and, okay, we can do this, we'll try this kind of attitude.
Why De Niro was attracted to A Bronx Tale, just from the names of the characters. Jimmy Whispers, Frankie Coffee Cake for his complexion, Jojo the Whale, you don't walk with him, you walk amongst him, Eddie Mush, a gambler so unlucky at the track they sell him his tickets already torn up. They are henchmen and hangers-on of a minor league mob guy, and De Niro has walked these mean streets before, usually with Martin Scorsese. In fact, Raging Bull took place in the Bronx, but there is a difference. This Bronx Tale is told by a young boy.
The Bronx, 1960. His father drives a bus. In the confessional, the priest mentions the Fifth Commandment. He thinks it's the Fifth Amendment. It's that kind of neighborhood. And one day he sees the neighborhood wise guy kill a man, and he doesn't tell. The payoff? It's costing De Niro his son.
Don't lie to me. Just tell me the truth, and I won't get upset.
I worked the crap games and the cops gave me tips.
Crap games?
What crap games? What crap games?
I thought you weren't going to get upset, Dad.
I lied. Now tell me
Chaz Palminteri was a struggling actor who wasn't being offered good parts, so he wrote himself one. A one-man play based on his Bronx childhood and his bus driver dad in the shooting he once witnessed. Hollywood made 6- and 7-figure offers they thought he couldn't refuse, but he did, until De Niro let him star.
You don't fool with a man's family. This is my son, not yours.
What are you going to do, fight
You
me?
stay away from my son.
De Niro takes the less showy part. Like his acting, his directing is never intrusive. He never shows off. He is sensitive to the place and the people.
But everybody loves him, just like everybody loves you on the bus. It's the same thing.
No, it's not the same. People don't love him. They fear him. There's a difference.
We watch the boy grow. His friends look like they're majoring in lineup. And 10 years later, the question persists.
Is it better to be loved or feared?
It's nice to be both, but it's very difficult. But if I had my choice, I would rather be feared. The fear lasts longer than love.
Great storytelling. Some directors, especially first-time directors, do tricks to let you know they're directing the film, but not De Niro. He knows he has a great story. He doesn't let his direction get in the way. He also gets wonderful performances from the first-time actors who play the boy at various ages. Another sign of a fine director and a story. When they shot the scene where the guy smashes the windshield with a baseball bat, the story went around De Niro was showing the actor how he wanted him to bust the window, and half a dozen guys from the neighborhood stood shaking their heads. Nah, you break a windshield this way, you hold the bat this way. Nobody asked, how do you guys know? A Bronx Tale.
Sounds like a good one. All right, Joel, thank you. Good Morning America continues in just a moment. Stay with us.
Travel provided by Continental, taking off to the heart of the Caribbean. Continental.
Oktoberfest in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Hi, Spencer.
That is right, Joan. Right, we're going to tell you all about Oktoberfest, and we're going to try to figure out today's weather. And just as it takes two to tango, it takes two to explain La Crosse's weather sometimes. So I'll be joined by the chief meteorologist here in La Crosse, and we'll have a weather duet. Charlie?
Thanks, Spencer. In our 8:30 half hour, we'll conclude our special series, Looking Good, Feeling Great. Today, how to renew your body by renewing your soul, plus giving the boot to dull footwear, and preparing a high-flavor, low-fat dinner. All that in 1/2 hour. But first, Morton Dean has the news of the day. Mort.
Thank you, Charlie. Thousands of funeral pyres are burning in southwestern India for the dead of India's earthquake. Officials say at least 21,000 people have been killed. The death toll is expected to rise by thousands more from India's worst earthquake in more than half a century. We get more on the story from ABC's Ron Allen in Bombay.
It's still unclear just how many people died and how many of their homes were destroyed. Many of the victims were poor farmers already suffering from the effects of drought in a country that is often home to natural disasters. Bodies are being pulled from the rubble. Rough estimates suggest as many as 12,000 people may still be trapped, their sleeping towns and villages flattened in the middle of the night. Some villages of up to 10,000 people were reportedly completely leveled. There are some reports suggesting the earth has caved in many places, trapping people in huge fissures. So far, there have been few first-hand accounts of what happened. The epicenter of the quake lies in India's heartland, a remote area that's now even more difficult to reach. Rescue operations are reportedly being hampered by huge swarms of people, some of them in a near state of panic. Hospitals are reportedly running out of bandages and medicines to treat the injured. India's military and various relief agencies are trying to help those displaced and injured. So far, the government says it does not need outside assistance to help deal with the worst earthquake here half a century. Ron Allen, ABC News, Bombay.
In Moscow, there is disappointment rather than breakthroughs. Church officials showed up this morning to mediate talks between representatives of Boris Yeltsin and Parliament. But the anti-Yeltsin Parliament's chief negotiator did not show up. And the leaders of the lawmakers took a hard line from inside the Parliament. They rejected a deal announced last night that would ease or have eased the blockade of Parliament if most guns inside the building were surrendered. A shakeup at the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It follows the release of a scathing report on the ATF's raid on the Branch Davidian cult compound near Waco, Texas. ABC's Tim O'Brien reports.
The report says top ATF officials in Waco had botched the raid when they violated clear instructions not to proceed if they suspected cult leader David Koresh had been tipped off.
It is now clear that those in charge in Texas realized they had lost the element of surprise before the raid began. They erred by failing to abort the mission.
Treasury Secretary Benson said they tried to cover up what had happened.
There was an absence of ATF leadership following the raid, and numerous officials were less than truthful about the facts.
The report says the site commander, Philip Hanaski, had devised an utterly inadequate plan based on seriously flawed assumptions, inadequate intelligence, and miscommunication, and that after the raid failed, he and key aides later rewrote the plan to spare themselves repercussions. The report says ATF failed to consider whether cult leader Koresh could have been arrested outside the compound, making the raid unnecessary. Benson placed 5 top ATF officials on paid leave. They could still face further discipline. And he named John McCaw, the director of the Secret Service, to head the ATF effective immediately. The report answers many questions, but it doesn't answer one, whether anyone else could have done any better. Top Treasury Department officials said the confrontation in Waco may have been one that just did not allow for any winners. Tim O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
The midnight strike deadline had passed, but Chrysler and the United Auto Workers kept talking and reached a tentative agreement last night. Talks or no talks, some 6,000 workers at 7 plants left their jobs when the deadline passed. The agreement, which affects 56,000 workers, goes to a rank-and-file union vote next week. Here's a look at our calendar, a look at some of the other news in the day ahead. The price at the pump goes up. The federal tax on gas increases by more than 4 cents a gallon today. An international conference opens in Washington. Its goal is to raise more than $2 billion to help implement the PLO-Israeli peace plan. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg takes the judicial oath of office at the U.S. Supreme Court. For a complete wrap-up of the day's news, join Peter Jennings for World News Tonight. And finally, something new will be on the bill if you eat in some Dade County, Florida restaurants today, a new tax. Richard Gisbert reports the new tax will link the fortunate with the less fortunate.
Shantytowns of Miami look like they're a world away from the city's pricey restaurants. But under the new tax, 1 penny of every dollar spent in many Dade County restaurants will be used to build 3 new homeless shelters.
It just doesn't seem that that's a very big burden to pay.
I'm into helping the homeless, and if that's what it takes for us to help and get involved, I think it's a good idea.
And the homeless tax is welcome news here on what they call Cardboard Boulevard.
It's about time that they did something like this for the homeless. And they said they're going to build, 500 bed shelters? And I think that's pretty good.
The new tax is designed to get the homeless away from places like this, and it's a popular idea. But not everybody likes the way the money will be collected. The complaints are from restaurant owners. Only those serving liquor and grossing more than $400,000 a year must charge the tax, and they say that's discrimination.
If we need to put it on restaurants, I think just all restaurants should have been taxed for it.
Brother Paul Johnson says the $7 million a year the tax will raise can be better spent. He's been working with Miami's homeless for 15 years, and he doesn't think more shelters are the answer.
They looked into getting them out of the public's way because we are a tourist city, but I don't think they're looking at the cause of homelessness.
Brother Paul wants to see rehabilitation and educational programs, but for the homeless and the hungry, the new restaurant tax is a start. Richard Gisbert, ABC News, Miami.
And that's the news on the hour. Back to Joan.
All right, Moore, thank you very much. Right now, Dana King from Good Morning America Sunday is here to tell us what's on tap for the weekend. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. We have a lot on. You know, as the new millennium approaches, issues of race are still a very big problem. So this Sunday, we're going to take a look at a growing, largely overlooked cultural phenomenon: interracial families. We're going to explore the displacement and confusion faced by these special families that seem to fall between the cracks of racial definition. Also, everything you wanted to know about frequent flyer programs but were afraid to ask. And we'll also take a look at a college in Ohio, Antioch, that's telling its students the do's and don'ts of making out by publishing guidelines of sexual conduct. Needless to say, it has aroused considerable debate.
You said making out.
Making out, kissing, everything.
All right. We'll be watching Sunday morning. Thanks, Dana. Right now, as promised, time for Spencer Christian in the National Weather Forecast. This morning, Spencer is in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Hi, Spencer.
Hi, Joan, and now it's time for our weather duet. Joining me is Dan Breeden, the chief meteorologist at our affiliate here in La Crosse, WXOW, and we are able to see
after the hour. Remember the phrase, "We are what we eat"? Well, you might add to that, we are what we watch on television. Will Miller, a psychotherapist who also happens to be a minister as well as a stand-up comic, says what we watch tells much about what we are as a society. He is Dr. Will Miller on the Nickelodeon cable channel, where he acts as a psychoanalytic TV guide to what he calls classic TV.
Why We Watch with Nick at Night's Dr. Will Miller.
Television and psychoanalysis may at first appear to be unrelated, but both focus on the ongoing human struggle to create and sustain relationships. Both engage us at a conscious and unconscious level, and in both, an hour is really just 50 minutes.
Well, he borrowed the chair from Alistair Cook. Joining us this morning, Will Miller, or should I say Dr. Will Miller.
Dr. Will's good enough.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Let me start with an example, and maybe we can do it best that way. Entertainment Weekly recently listed all the top shows, said the #1 show ever on television was Mary Tyler Moore. We have a clip, and I'll get you to comment.
Okay.
Lou, did you hear the great news?
You're quitting.
No, I've been nominated for another Teddy Award. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. Any calls, Mary?
No. Hey, Mr. Grant, Murray got a nomination, too.
Hey, no kidding? Well, congratulations, Murray. You son of a gun. I'm really proud of you. That's terrific.
Sure. Make a fuss over Murray. I always knew it. Bald-headed guys are clannish.
All right, the insights in that. What does it say about us that we made that show so popular?
Isn't it like Mary and Lou are like mom and dad, and they're two errant teenage children, and one who never gets enough reinforcement and one who gets too much? That show is really about creating family at work. I mean, how many people don't have what they need in family at home and can relate to a woman like Mary Tyler Moore relocating and having to create a family-like set of relationships at work?
That's a very interesting point. Many people take work and turn it into a family, give it family attributes. And of course, the anchorman, Ted, was the child.
He was the child.
In all of that.
And needs disciplining.
What makes a television show then a classic?
I think that the key is when they focus on the intricacies of the relationships and not the high drama. You know, you can go to the police blotter and find a whole lot of dramatic circumstances for television, but actually it's the small things that make you and I brothers or friends that really are about what real people really relate to.
Are different shows classics at different stages? In other words, we get ready as a society for a show that we might not be ready for 10 years ago?
I think that's really just window dressing. I mean, I think Mary Tyler Moore, which Nick at Night is showing, holds up just as well now in 1993 as then, not just as a period piece, but because it's about relationships. Certainly, they will reflect what's going on in the current time. Seinfeld, for instance, doing a great job of talking about American culture in 1993. But the sustaining power of that show, like Cheers, like MASH, like others, is the relationships that were real sweet inside them.
All right, one show that featured someone who does something like what you do was Bob Newhart's show. We have a clip. Let's take a look at that.
Mr. Stevens, you shouldn't take life so seriously.
But, Dr. Hartley, I feel so insignificant. People are always laughing at me.
You are a clown.
Well, what seems to be the problem? Well, Doctor, Frank here wants to break up the act and go out on his own.
That was great stuff. But why so popular?
He never ridiculed the people. You know, Bob Newhart, like Jack Benny, has that quality where most of us feel this way, that we're the beacon of sanity in a sea of insanity, and we're watching, and his physical takes to the craziness around him were absolutely perfect. That's the way we envision we're watching the world. I love Bob Newhart because, as a therapist, more than other portrayals on TV, he cared about his patients and he applied what he knew in his home life.
Now, you make an interesting point, and you relate it to Jack Benny. I think it also, to some extent, can be related to Seinfeld. It's a character in the middle, and the world revolves around him, and you watch the world as he watched the world. And it takes somebody really good to do that, but when it's well done, it's terrific. One more clip that we've got, Dick Van Dyke, and I want to ask you about that.
There he is, folks. The poor man's nobody.
That is the nicest thing that's been said to me all day.
Well, where you been, Mel? Buddy's been us.
I'm about at my wit's end.
Well, that's a short trip.
That woman and I have been at each other's throats for 2 days now. She wants to reorganize the entire show. She's a terror.
Yeah, Marge. Okay, I'll tell him. Thanks. Well, Miss Marshall is on her way up here.
Oh, Marge must have told. I wish I could hide.
Hey, quick, grow some hair.
Quick final point about this one.
That really reflects most American men's ambivalence, that they're more attached at work than they are at home. I mean, they really love, he has like a family environment at work. And Rob, I think that's why he trips over the ottoman. He feels very guilty that he's not as bound to home as he is to work. A lot of men feel like that.
All right, thanks very much. That's all fun stuff, Dr. Will Miller. Good. Appreciate you being here.
Good to be here.
16 after the hour. Next, she's on the beam. World champion gymnast Shannon Miller with us when Good Morning America continues.
Remember how good it felt?
Superstar Robert De Niro makes his debut as a director in the new movie A Bronx Tale. Our Gene Siskel joins us from WBBM-TV in Chicago to look at that one and another new movie, Household Saints, starring Tracy Ullman. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry. And actually, the films have something in common. They're both Italian-American stories set in New York City, and they're both very good films. And that's maybe the most important news of all. First, Robert De Niro's film, A Bronx Tale. This is familiar territory for De Niro. He grew up in movies making these kinds of films about street life in New York in the 60s, mobsters, but he throws in an interesting character, an interesting family, a working-class family where he is the bus driver, and really it's the education of his son by two people, the bus from neighborhood experiences. And here we see the conflict as the father doesn't want the mobster influencing his little boy.
You know what I'm talking about. Just stay away from my son, okay?
Well, you stay right over here. See, why don't you go outside? I want to talk to your father.
I'll speak to my own son. Coach will wait outside.
First of all, I respect you, Lorenzo. You're a stand-up guy. We're from the same neighborhood.
But don't ever talk to me like that again.
I tell your son to go to school, to go to college.
You don't understand. It's not what you say. It's what he sees. It's the clothes, it's the cars, it's the money, it's everything. He tried to throw away his baseball cards the other day because he said Mickey Mantle will never pay my rent.
He said that to you?
That's not funny. Not funny when your 9-year-old kid has a bigger bank account than you do.
I offered you a job, but you said no to me.
That's right, and I say no now. Just leave my son alone, please.
That's Chaz Palminteri as the mobster, and he did write this story as well. And you might expect this film to be just a mano a mano between these two guys. Actually, they both take turns educating the little boy, and it is his story as he grows up, and it takes us into some surprising places, including a relationship with a black girl, which at that time in the 60s was even more wild than it might be even today. Wow. It is a fresh story, and De Niro does a pretty good job directing.
That was what it's interesting. Sometimes you see a movie and the clip makes you want to see it. That clip makes me want to see that movie.
De Niro does a good job, Harry, because remember, he's worked with Martin Scorsese, possibly our greatest director, and he's learned from a real master. Tells the story nicely, moves the camera well. So it starts out like a familiar story, then it gets special. Our next film is completely original, and this is a film called Household Saints, and it tries to find sainthood and in an average working-class family in New York City, Little Italy, Mulberry Street. It takes us from the 40s. We follow 3 generations of Italian-American women. Here we see the middle person in the story, played by Tracy Ullman. Her father, believe it or not, has lost her in a card game. She's going to marry the guy he lost the card game to, and he wants her to fix a great meal for him to cinch this marriage.
the matter? You don't like him?
No.
Too bad. He likes you.
Oh, yeah? What's that supposed to mean?
Means him and his mother coming here to eat. Means you're cooking up a storm. Means meat. Tomorrow, we show the San Angelos how a Falconetti cooks a veal roast. I want his meal to be so good, a man would get married. They eat like that every night.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got news for you. Nobody gets married for the food.
And this film takes us to fresh places, too. Tracy Ullman does get married, and she has a daughter who becomes so devoted to Jesus, she wants to become a Carmelite nun. Now, this is something fresh, an Italian-American woman story. We get plenty of movies like A Bronx Tale about Italian-American men, but here's something unusual, a film about Italian-American women and their religious-influenced lives. Nancy Savoca's Household Saints, another good film.
A double recommendation. Mark it on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Gene. Have a good weekend.
You bet, Harry. You too.
Paula?
Already have. 23 minutes past the hour. Still ahead, Beau Bridges brings Hearts of the West to CBS.
We're into that around here.
Yes.
You go to spas
Uh-huh.
a lot.
Yeah.
You get
Totally rejuvenated.
fussed over and whatever.
Yeah.
You feel good on the outside?
Well, you get fussed over and you work out and you really come back feeling like $1 million. So.
Outside and inside?
I think inside too, sure.
Well, they've got sort of spas now that are designed just for the inside.
I know.
Yeah, we're going to
I'm
talk
interested
about
in those too.
one in this half hour. Spas, of course, that take care of you on the outside have become increasingly popular. But we're going to see today what it's like to spend a weekend at a spa that really is designed just to treat the inner self. It's a monastery, actually, where silence is one way to a refreshed body and soul. And we'll show it to you.
Something else for the soles of your feet, that is. Boots. They are the fashion accessory for fall and winter, and we'll look at the most stylish choices for men and women. Also a dinner menu that cuts down on that fat, but not on flavor. Right now, Morton Dean has the news for us. Mort?
Thanks, Joan. Rain and aftershocks in southwestern India are making an already difficult job even more difficult. Rescue workers with their cranes, bulldozers, and bare hands are trying to reach thousands of people believed to have been buried by yesterday's earthquake. Dozens of villages were turned into rubble, thousands of homes into tombs. The estimated death toll is at least 21,000, but some officials say the final toll will likely be much higher. Boris Yeltsin said it again this morning. He has no plans to use force against the Russian parliament. He said he does not want to give his political enemies inside parliament an excuse to spill Russian blood. He spoke after a deal with the lawmakers collapsed. Earlier, church leaders tried to mediate the dispute, but the lawmakers' chief negotiator did not show up for the meeting. Yeltsin says he won't agree to more talks unless those inside parliament give up their weapons. Something's been added to the gas pump this morning. The federal tax on gasoline went up 4.3 cents a gallon as of midnight. It's part of President Clinton's deficit reduction plan. It's expected that gasoline stations will round up that tax to a nickel a gallon for consumers. Diet plans are big business in the United States, and many of them make big promises, promises which the U.S. government says are not being kept. ABC's Bettina Gregory reports a government crackdown is underway.
Renee Schwager is one of an estimated 50 million Americans trying to lose weight. She says she has tried many commercial diet plans, lost weight, then gained it back, just like 95% of those who diet.
A lot of advertising for weight loss makes it sound as though the only important thing is that you're going to lose weight and how quickly you're going to lose weight and how easy it is to lose weight. And I think the real problem is keeping the weight off.
This is the door that makes the dream come true.
I can help you keep weight off with counseling that can change your life.
That's why the Federal Trade Commission charges 5 of the nation's largest diet programs have engaged in deceptive advertising, making unsubstantiated claims of weight loss and the average person's ability to keep it off.
The bottom line is that losing weight is hard work and keeping it off is harder still. Consumers need to understand that all too often promises of long-term weight loss raise false hopes of an easy fix for a difficult problem.
3 companies have agreed to change their ads in accordance with the government's demands, but Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers are fighting the charges.
The Weight Watchers complaint is much ado about nothing. That's simply because all our ads
now and forever, include appropriate disclosures.
Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig will go to trial before an administrative law judge. But the government says all diet companies should back up claims of weight loss with solid evidence and disclose to prospective customers that most people who lose weight put it back on. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
Some news about the economy this morning. The index of leading economic indicators rose by 1% in August. The index is designed to predict how the economy will do 6 to 9 months from now. The August showing was better than July's, when the index went down by 0.1%. It's the 1st of October, so Spencer is at an Oktoberfest.
Clock for cultivating the inner self. Some rather unusual weekend getaways are gaining some popularity. Our Denise Richardson recently visited one such destination dedicated to an enriched inner person.
It seems as though everywhere you turn these days, you're assaulted by sounds. Do you ever feel as though you just have to get away from it all? More and more folks are doing just that and ending up at places such as Holy Cross Monastery in West Park, New York. Let's call it a retreat for the soul.
Making the transition from a difficult week to the beauty and serenity of a place such as this can be intimidating, especially the silence. But if you ask the monks and the guests who come here, this experience can change your life.
It permits you, if you're so disposed, to begin to think about things that get lost in the general noise of life. It's really quite wonderful.
We have about 3,500 guests a year who come to Holy Cross. They literally come from every walk of life and from every religious background, and sometimes no religious background whatsoever.
The days are held together by the rhythm of monastic life, which centers on prayer 5 times a day. Guests are invited to participate, but not pressured into it.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. I'm lifting up the holy. You have filled the hungry with...
Holy Cross is an Episcopalian monastery. The 12 monks who live here follow the Benedictine tradition of hard work and worship. They'll tell you in a minute, though, they're different from what visitors might expect.
The misconceptions are the kind of misconceptions that you have, that we're very severe, that we're extremely pious, with the wrong kind of piety, and that we don't laugh, we're very serious, we have no humor, that we live very meager kind of life. And I think what they're surprised about is that there's joy here.
And the monks believe there's joy in silence as well. Between 9 p.m. and 8:15 in the morning, all guests and monks are expected to be quiet.
Everything develops from within here in the silence. That's the key to it, is you get to listen to your own thoughts and, filter them through your own God. It's a real sense of peace. I cannot put it another way.
Some meals are taken in silence, some not.
A humble acknowledgement that for them, the liturgy must be a daily affair, a chore.
As a guest, you don't have to do anything. It's what works for you. Join the monks at their daily chores, such as dishwashing or incense making. Attend workshops. Enjoy the library. Go for a walk or simply do nothing. Guests are requested, however, to change their own beds for the next visitor. And if you feel comfortable, add a prayer.
What I get from a place like this is a chance to step back, put myself together a little bit, focus on me and on what's going on inside of me, which sometimes gets lost in the shuffle.
I chose it to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city, to be someplace where it is peaceful, where there are no television, no telephones, no locks on the doors, to get away from the anxious feeling I have sometimes living in the city.
The high point of the weekend may be considered the Mass on Sunday, a celebration of life.
It appears that you're living one life, we're living another, so what do you learn from us?
Guests here enrich us, because the point of our ministry and our work with guests is to open ourselves to learn more about who we are by allowing who you are to come into our lives.
Good idea. Thanks, Denise. 17 before the hour. A look at the fashion accessory. No wardrobe will be complete without this fall and winter, and we'll tell you what it is.
Call 1-800-2-CARS. If you qualify, you can get an immediate quote over the phone. Not everyone will qualify. Not everyone will save. But if you have 2 cars and you're a good driver, you could be due some big savings. Call us today at 1-800-2-CARS. That's 1-800-TWO-CARS.